Guys, we finally got it. We got an actual vampire horror movie? Let's dive in. Welcome back, guys, gals, and other pals, to another fine edition of the Final Credits. And this time, we are taking a look at the movie The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Now, for some who don't know what this is about, in the story of Bram Stoker's Dracula, and I love telling the story because I've told it maybe 10 times in the past 2 days, and I'll keep telling it. Nice. Essentially, there is a part in the book where Renfield approaches Dracula, essentially as a real estate agent for a bit of property close to London called Carfax Abbey. He sells it and everything, and Dracula's like, "Oh no, you're my little puppet now. You're going to be coming with me." "Yes, master. And I need some help getting over there." Now, the only way to do it around this time was to sail. Now, in the book, glosses right over that part, but the crew mysteriously disappears. Oh no, with the exception of one crazy lunatic on the ship who happens to be our Mr. Renfield. What happened to the crew? Oh no! That's where this movie comes in, and I can say right off the bat from seeing the trailer, I knew I was going to fall in love with this movie. Saw it in theaters. Not my favorite for the year, but at the same time, still, I think a very good horror flick. A very good vampire horror flick that we haven't seen in a good long while. Guys, please share your thoughts.
Here's the thing. As much as I liked it, I'm kind of upset Renfield was not even in the movie.
I agree. Yes. A disservice, I say.
I feel like that would have been like, because it would have been like a Quicksilver situation. You have two different Renfields in the same year. Like, so it what? Just, yeah. I guess they want to just avoid any confusion. I have no, connection to the original Dracula books or anything like that. I am not the fan that BigGrim is. But I just, off the top of my head, I just feel like maybe that was like a business decision more so than just like an oversight.
I'll say this. Talk about a complete 180 from seeing Renfield from earlier this year. Way more darker, way more serious horror. It's nice to get a horror movie on the channel to review it. For me, overall, I thought it was just all right. I did enjoy certain parts of it. It was predictable, but we knew what we were getting. We were going to basically watch the funeral of the entire crew of the Demeter one by one. But what was enjoyable as the deaths were happening, it got more dramatic. It added more anticipation. What's going to happen next to the crew? When we were like how they got to the captain's grandchild, that was real bone chilling and gut wrenching. Even a cool little twist there, how he hid in the darkness in the corner of the room. So that was interesting, but. For me, horror is not usually my genre, but I like what they did, what they tried to do. They made Dracula more of a monster instead of the human eventual form, and more of a monster, more of a beast, the embodiment of evil, the devil, whatever you want to call it. So Dracula himself looks scary as hell, and I thought they did a good job with that at least.
Absolutely, yes.
And it looked more practical than it was CGI.
Yeah.
I actually made this joke after we saw it. I also said, yeah, I also enjoyed Man-Bat, the villain from Batman, because he did look very much like that with the wings coming from his hands, but at the same time, as much of a joke it was, he looked believable. He looked like a true monster, and I loved it. I felt like there was something else that they could have done towards the end of the movie. I'm not going to say what it is, but that's when I felt that like we could officially have the full turn. But I do want to talk about the cast for a second, because I felt like it was both a hit and a miss. And when I say miss, I am talking, of course, about Liam Cunningham. I felt like he was the captain of said Demeter. I felt like he wasn't used enough. Felt like he could have had a lot more scenes and definitely a lot more dialect with his character. We do see him have a couple of scenes, and they were very well done. But an actor of his caliber, I felt like could have had a little bit more personally.
I mean, he was essentially the narrator of the whole movie. I mean, he was the one writing the logs and having those scenes as well. I thought he had a decent role, and I just loved his casting with Liam Cunningham. His voice, I thought, was like perfect, like 1800s British captain voice. Like I thought he sounded really good too. But
more of it.
I could agree. Yeah, you know what I mean. Up until like the scene like with his was his son or grandson.
Grandson.
I feel like his grandson. Yeah, he didn't really have like much of a role up until like that point of the movie. But yeah, I thought overall like he was one of the high points, like one of the high castings of the movie.
For the screen time he did get, and hearing his voice doing narration, he was definitely the best or one of the best performances in the movie, along with Corey Hawkins, who played Clemens. He was phenomenal as the doctor, the lead human role in this movie.
Great.
Yeah, he's a very good actor.
No, like I know they try to still they have to give you hope, him and the surviving crew members to do the last stand, but they didn't stand a fucking chance. They got blown away one by one.
You know what though? We got spoiled with that because certain movies do this, and I'm not really a big fan of it. Like opening scene, let's show you the end of the movie, and oh my god, how did we get to this point in the movie? Let's go back with 3 months later or whatever it is. Like that very blatantly is like, okay, no one's going to live. We know Dracula's on here from the title, and any fan of the book will know, but how are people going to get out? And we found out the movie lied to us because there was at least 1 or 2 survivors.
Well, he went overboard, so he wasn't on the ship when it got to land, and the girl
the person in flames.
Yeah, basically,
which was very Buffy the Vampire-esque. Like you don't often see vampires dying like that anymore, and I love that. Considering, I grew up on watching Buffy, but watching vampires just go up in flames and just like that was, to me, it was great.
They got every detail, the skin burning and everything.
Yeah.
It was well done, both from like lore standpoint, visually, because you actually do see we had vampire deaths in this, and the only way that they did die was from sunlight. We didn't have stakes of the heart, we didn't have garlic, and they looked at crucifixes like how Superman sometimes looks at kryptonite. It either affects him or it doesn't. Depends on the day that ends in Y, I guess.
And one of those rare movies where the villain won. Like, well, you knew from the beginning that was going to happen. Oh, yeah. But what was the last time you recall a movie where the heroes or the main character, the good guy, didn't win, but in the end, essentially the villain won?
Well, not necessarily, because he didn't really win. He just walked away without getting caught.
There's a difference between winning, I believe, and surviving.
Right.
He won the battle, not the war.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because keep reading the book and you tell me if he comes out on top or not.
Well, essentially, Clemens just survived as the sole survivor, and a big aspect, at least towards the end of the movie, or second half, the second act, I should say, is the chess game between Dracula and Clemens, and that's the cliffhanger. One thing I was a little confused about, but it was still a cool look, the Jekyll and Hyde hat in the bar to gives the nod, and with the awesome cane, but I don't know why they were using elements of another.
Well, I think they were just trying to make it more humanish.
Yeah.
Right.
There's that. Also, that was just straight up the style back then.
Yeah.
So
true.
It did make sense.
Where?
But to add on to what Pancakes is saying, because we're just going to talk about this, I was kind of also talking to the guys after our initial reaction. I felt the way that they did it was kind of like that. I felt was like the weakest part of the movie. It was definitely mismanaged because what we saw was the monster literally in sheep's clothing, essentially, just with like, you know, the top hat and the coat, looking over and seeing the sole survivor Clemens, to which I thought it should be like a little bit of time has passed, you know, like a couple of nights or so. Dracula has had his fill and has retained his human form, should also sit back down across the table from Clemens and just say, "You were talking to me on the ship that one time. Let's finish that conversation," and just show like a vampire fang popping out. That would have been a perfect ending to me personally.
So what you're basically saying is they had a big missed opportunity that they could have made an even better ending.
Wholeheartedly, yes. I felt like they dropped the ball on it. Having said that, though, I don't hate what they did. Like, I wasn't about to, like, you know, tear my hat off and throw it at the screen and damn this movie to hell, but, you know, it could have been done better. That's all.
I mean, as a horror movie, I'm not like the biggest fan of horror flicks. I feel like they like if you want my opinion, we haven't had like a truly great, scary, dark horror movie since The Exorcist, like the original Exorcist, and like this is like one of the best horror movies.
Long time ago, man.
Because you know, I just feel like a lot of horror movies these days, like modern ones, they just kind of go into like that slasher, murder, jump scare vibe that like. You've seen it, like you've seen it once. You've seen it, like you know, they don't nail the tone down, and like what this movie did so well, it just nailed that tone of like darkness and dread, and like everybody's going to die, and you felt like the fear that was going on throughout the entire movie,
and that's because
and
that's because of the director. So the director was Andre Overdahl or something to that extent. I've only seen. Other than this movie, I've only seen one other movie of his works, and that's the Autopsy of Jane Doe, and that was really good also. And all he directs is horror movies.
Oh, so he was a good pick.
Yeah, he was a great pick. Yeah. I really enjoyed the Autopsy of Jane Doe, but I enjoyed this movie a lot more. And this was
absolutely. Yeah, I can imagine.
So I get that Dracula is the classic monster. He's supposed to be scary and horror, but I guess I'm so used to enjoying Dracula or vampires in general with comedy. Like one of my favorite shows is What We Do in Shadows, Renfield, which we love from earlier this year, the classic Abbott and Costello. But yeah. So I get the vampires are supposed to be scary, especially Dracula, but I guess I like more of the comical aspect. But this movie was a little bit of a miss. But like, if you're a true horror fan, like I said in the shirt, you will enjoy this because it has those elements to it.
And the fact that it wasn't overly gory, like there was just enough. It was perfect.
Well, we didn't get like a lot of like frequent scenes of gore, but the gore we did get was pretty visceral. Like I think that was another aspect of what made this a good horror movie, because like it was like disturbing. Yeah, right. And I'm agreeing with you though. Yeah, like it wasn't too many times we saw like people getting slaughtered, but like the slaughter that we got was disturbing. Yeah, like people's jugulars getting like ripped out. You see like the veins, like the blood coming out, like every detail was there. People's like necks are snapping. Like what the scene where like one of the crew who got bit, when he was going after the kid is locked in the room and he's just smashing his face repeatedly against the door, break it open, and you see his nose get like smushed in, like it was disturbing stuff. you know,
it
so
was
like
great.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make it clear, like, like when we say like the gore wasn't too much, like it wasn't too frequent, but the gore we did get was like, oh man, like it was disturbing stuff.
Well, okay, so what I mean by there wasn't too much gore, it's not like you went to go see a Saw movie where it's
every 5 seconds.
Gore. Right, exactly. This was a perfect combination of being a horror movie and showing just enough gore to say, holy shit, this movie's great, because there's not overly done of, blood and guts everywhere. It was just enough and it was perfect.
So here's the thing about that though, because while watching this movie, I'm literally saying to myself, like, wait, why are we seeing all this blood here? This is Dracula. This is a vampire, the OG vampire. Why is he leaving this stuff to waste just like on the ground? He should be lapping this stuff up. There shouldn't be any blood anywhere when they find the body. And I'm not going to say that was a disappointment because it wasn't, but it had me questioning for a bit. And then I realized, oh no, this isn't, Vlad Dracula for a second. This is the monster who is starved of everything and just has those animalistic behaviors right now. And I thought that was extremely well done with this.
Mm-hmm.
And the most heartbreaking death after the child, of course, is when he went after the black lab. He couldn't leave the dog alone.
Poor dog.
Listen,
poor sheep. What about the sheep?
All the animals.
The pig, the entire cattle.
I am just saying, if you want to prove a point, you can't mess around.
Right.
All right? And
everyone,
thank God they just didn't show anything on the screen. We just saw the body.
I was going to say that before, too. Like the gore that we saw, like it was done in such a way that it made you take the movie and everything happening like very seriously. That's what I'm saying. Like that, it all culminated in like the tone, like getting put right, in my opinion.
Johnny, if I may, for a hot second, and call you out. I heard you specifically from the opposite end of where we were seating, saying to yourself, "Oh no, not the kid! Please, not the kid!" And I'm just like,
the dog too. I was like that with the dog.
Johnny!
I was like, "Oh, they're not actually gonna kill him. They're not actually gonna kill him. They killed him."
Which I kind of love because it was someone who was vested in the movie. Like the movie did its part. You got someone vested. Good job, movie. You got Johnny to care. Thank God.
With the animals, I guess that goes back to the predictability I mentioned earlier. Like, oh no. There goes the cattle. Every human on this ship is royally fucked one by one. But how is Dracula going to take him out? He's the ultimate judge, jury, and executioner in one embodiment to destroy everything in his path.
I'll tell you how he takes him out. Mind games. That whole thing was just one big mind game of because he could take them all out in one night, but then he's like, who am I going to have to, drive the ship now?
Yeah.
And the poor cook, he thought he got away from the boat, getting away on the lifeboat. But who flew with his bat wings? Man bat landing on the lifeboat to take.
That's who did it.
To take him out, and like, oh no, you thought the smartest guy in the ship, even he was doomed.
I really thought he would get away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he really did. And the second that we cut back to it, I'm like, well, God can't save you now.
And he actually sends back the boat filled with blood and bumps into the ship so everybody can see what he did.
Dracula, the king of mind games.
It was great.
Guys, did I miss anything? Did we overlook anything in this review right now?
The scene where he basically crucified the captain to the wheel.
Yes, that's right. We did get a crucifixion in this, and that was hardcore.
Yeah. And even like the scene, I go, you know what? Yeah, I think we covered all the bases. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going.
I think we did. Now we're just indulging for our own sakes. But guys, that's how we feel about the last Demeter. What was it good? Did you like it? Was there enough blood? Could we have seen more Renfield? Let us know down in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, do all the things down the doobly-doo. We'll insert other things in the description. Until then, roll credits. We're out.
Oh shit, it's Dracula. Oh shit, it's Dracula. Duck.
Okay.